This year is different. It just is. Bills fans, how many times have you seen your team in that same spot and they blow it? Only this time they didn't. Stevie Johnson, that 2-point conversion, the ball is in the air going to Mark Andrews. If we were to pause your TV with the ball in the air, what's going through your mind?
Again, oh my goodness, not this. But it worked out for us, so I'm so happy for it. 10-0 at home. Way to go, Buffalo Bills.
And I think a lot of people will look at last night as the Mark Andrews game and put it on him. And I suppose from a Baltimore perspective, that's totally understandable. But for Buffalo in particular, I think last night represented the evolution of a championship caliber football team. A team that had 0 turnovers, a team that had 1 penalty for 10 yards, and a team, Mr. Hein, that's going back to the AFC title game to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, can we fast forward to Sunday already? But as far as last night goes, I mean, you're right about Andrews, who had about as tough a game as a receiver tight end could possibly have. And Stevie, I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Andrews and dealing with drops and dealing with letting your team down, because as a guy who's been such a focal point of so many offenses throughout your career, you understand how difficult that can be. But I mean, for Buffalo in particular, let's stick with them for a second. It was a game that they just didn't really make that crucial mistake. And say what you will about some of the play calls in the second half, conservative offense, didn't love it. But at the end of the day, when you look at the turnover differential, which has been key in the postseason so far, Buffalo won that, and they won the game because of it.
I'm kind of wondering if you had my seats bugged, because I was calling out the very uber conservative play calling from Joe Brady all second half, and I think it almost cost them the game.
Yeah.
But you're right. They, based off of what I heard post-game, it kind of seemed like they went into this game thinking Baltimore had sort of beaten themselves all year, and as long as we don't make mistakes, Baltimore might make that crucial mistake. And Buffalo has lived by the turnover and died by the turnover all year. They led the NFL in turnover margin, and that was the biggest difference Sunday in the win. Stevie, you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like we said all year, it's been a bend but don't break type of defense, and we seen this all week, And I really loved like what AK was saying about the evolution of the offense. It was very conservative, but when you have a team like this with players, the running back room, you have a defense that's fully set. You can have a conservative offense and defense, but you just got to have those players that can make those plays, and that's what we saw. A lot of our players making plays, not only Josh Allen.
If I told you before the game that Baltimore would punt 0 times, Josh Allen would throw for 127 yards, run for 20 yards, and the Bills win, you would think that's impossible. But that's exactly what happened, because, and I'm not going to say Lamar went full playoff Lamar yesterday, but those 2 turnovers in the first half were massive. And Andrews, I hate to pick on the guy because he's an all-time great Baltimore Raven, one of the best tight ends of our generation. And Stevie, I mean, I'd love to go through your psyche watching Andrews, that drop, the 2-point conversion, the fumble in the fourth quarter, the other drop in the second quarter. I mean, how would you advise Andrews on how to proceed here? And I'm sure you were feeling for him.
Yeah, I'll just say it's a part of the game. It's your turn to be an example, and that's what I'll say. As a player that's been through it, a young player, I went through it and I took it the wrong way. He's way more mature. He's seen other players make mistakes. Maybe he's seen mine. Who knows? But he know what to do from his standpoint at this point. He's just got to get back to it. It's not like he was out there playing lazy or lackadaisical. He was out there trying hard. He was trying to make plays, and that's just the way the cookie crumbled for him. And that's pretty much it. He knows how to handle it. He knows he's one of the greats, and it's just his time to be an example and show kids and other players, how to deal with it.
It's just crazy. Andrews didn't have a drop since week 6, didn't have a fumble since 2019.
Yeah, crazy.
And he did both last night. It's unbelievable how that could happen.
I'll say this, for the drop is one thing, but the fumble, let's give some credit to Terrell Bernard.
Good point.
Because that was a peanut Tillman, perfect punch out. What player in the NFL doesn't fumble that when you're getting it was just a perfect punch out, and that was the play of the game to me. That kind of swung everything.
Huge.
Baltimore was marching. The Bills defense couldn't stop them in the second half. You make that play, it turns everything around. But one thing you said with Baltimore not punting, Josh throwing for barely anything, they won that game like the Chiefs.
Great point.
That was
Completely
a Chiefs-like win, the way that they did that.
That's the evolution of what I'm talking about, right? You look at Mahomes and the win for the Chiefs over the Texans. It was their defense. It was the referees. It was the lack of turnovers.
Oh, Stevie's got Stevie's.
You know what? I like that comparison because it was a close game. But I feel like the Chiefs try even harder to get victories like that. I think the Bills was more so in control of that game. You know, like the second quarter, they felt like they blew them out, I feel like, and they just got super over conservative. I feel like the Chiefs, they really get down to the wire. Hey, we got to get this. We got to get the Bills. It wasn't really like that. I feel like the Bills was in cruise control.
Well, they were leading the whole game too, Buffalo, right? That's able to really establish the run with James Cook and just ensure that field position was in their favor, as opposed to that Chiefs and Texans game, which you're talking about.
I love the Bills' first half game plan.
Yeah.
And their first half game plan put them in position to be able to kind of call back the dogs a little bit. But it was just a little too much. And I think a big conversation point is that fourth down. And as a fan, I'm always the one who wants them to go. And I was so torn, but I honestly think that McDermott made the right decision kicking that field goal to make it an 8-point game, because you had, to use a poker term, like they had more outs that way because they need to drive the field, get a touchdown, and get the 2-point conversion. Whereas if you go for the fourth down and you don't get it, I think Lamar was just going to drive and score anyways. My critique is on the play calling before that.
Agreed.
You get 2nd and goal from the 2, you sneak that ball 3 times, and that ball's going to go into the end zone.
100%.
Before that, I hate the play calling before that, but I don't know, Stevie, fourth down, did you want them to kick that field goal or did you want them to go?
Yeah, so I was forced to want them to kick the field goal. It was just the first down, second down, up to third down. It's like, what were we doing when we get down to the 2? Like you said, go with that touch push, go with that QB sneak. The first 2 plays, and I assumed that we was going to score a touchdown. But when we got to fourth down, I understood. I think everybody kind of understood that we need to get these points and just hope that we can stop them on a 2-point conversion, because I think everybody knew that Lamar was going to drive the field, which he did. And it came down to that 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and as we talked about before the show, Chris, even if Andrews catches that pass in the end zone, the 2-point conversion, Buffalo still has just over 90 seconds to drive the field and 2 timeouts. It's very likely they find a way to put up points. But I want to look at the turnover differential in this game, but also throughout the entirety of the NFL playoffs so far. So we know Buffalo was +3 in turnovers last night. You look at teams that have won this year in the playoffs, 3 turnovers combined of those 10 wins. In the 10 losses, 21 turnovers combined. So it's just a massive disparity. The entire winning or losing in the National Football League playoffs this year is about keeping the ball and not turning it over to your opposition, because if you do, you will lose. Detroit, a prime example. Houston with the 8 sacks, a couple turnovers. I mean, it's just, and of course, last night with Baltimore, you got to keep the ball, and possession is paramount to success. And I think we're seeing it. And I think as we look ahead to Sunday in Kansas City, I think whoever wins the turnover battle between Buffalo and Kansas City, and I should add, Buffalo, after winning the turnover battle last night, hasn't lost it in 21 straight games. That ties an NFL record with the 1953 Rams. The evolution of the Buffalo Bills is on full display here. They don't turn the ball over, and generally that results in wins, and it certainly did last night.
First off, 1953 Rams.
Yes.
You dug deep into the bag.
I went to the archives.
I don't even think we can name a player on that.
No,
on the 53 Rams.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was like the evolution of Josh. Think of last year, the 18 interception year and all the criticism. This guy just doesn't turn the ball over anymore.
Smart.
And we used to kind of have our doubts that he would maybe, and honestly, on that one play, it looked like he really wanted to pitch that ball to James Cook. And it's like, Josh, rein it in, Josh. But yeah, that's the evolution of him. He doesn't turn the ball over anymore, and your stats say it all. The key to winning in these playoffs is not turning the ball over and forcing turnovers, and that's exactly what the Bills did yesterday, and that was the difference. Turnovers were the difference.
That's where I give a hats off to Coach Brady, Coach McDermott, everybody for really having that game plan and really grooming Josh from his rookie year to now. It's a totally different team. The rookie year, early year of Josh, he probably would have lateral it because he's trying to make plays, but he's so much more mature and evolved, man. It was great to see his decision making. And then I want to give a shout out to Tyler Bass, special teams. Big making
kicks.
Those field goals. When you partner no turnovers and then having a special team that plays lights out like they did, I mean that's guaranteed victory for me most times. So well done to the special teams and Josh on his evolution.
If Bass doesn't hit those kicks, they don't win that game.
No,
and
exactly
one of those was a 51-yarder, and It was cold yesterday.
I was skeptical when they lined up for that kick and Bass is standing back there. I'm like 51 in this temperature. I don't know, but kudos to him. He booted it and had some room to spare, Stevie.
Yeah, I like that they didn't think twice about it. You know, it looked like it was confident. They was confident about the call. Tyler walked out there and he did what he was supposed to. You know, it was good to see, and I'm glad for him. I'm happy for Tyler going into this championship matchup.
So I think we got to talk about Lamar. It's Lamar. I thought he played well yesterday, but outside of those 2 turnovers, and that interception was awful. It didn't really lead to points, but it did lead to field position, which led to points. But the fumble was brutal.
Awful.
The fumble was really bad, and was that playoff Lamar or like what? I'm so confused with what we saw from Lamar and what the discourse is today, because yes, he deserves some blame. And there's a Ravens fan on the TSN staff, Eric Kirk, who said this. He loves Lamar, and he said Lamar still has yet to beat a good team in the playoffs, and eventually that has to be a little bit on him. But I don't know how much of that blame can fall on him when it came time to lead his team. He got him a touchdown and put the ball perfectly in place to tie it with a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about individual players who helped or hurt the Ravens, I think with regards to the hurt, pretty clear Mark Andrews would be number one. But I think Lamar was ultimately in the plus category. That being said, when you are the potentially soon-to-be 3-time NFL MVP, you can't make turnovers like Lamar did in the first half. That pick was terrible, and that fumble was terrible. These are inexcusable mistakes that, on the other side, Josh Allen did not make. So is this chalk one up for playoff Lamar? He's a choke artist. He can't perform in the playoffs. I don't think so. But at the same time, it's not one where it's going to help his legacy and help him dispel the notion that he isn't a guy who can get it done in the postseason, Stevie.
Yeah, that's facts, man. It's not going to hurt him in the future. But, I mean, it is what it is at this point. He's running into some great teams in the playoffs. And, you know, when you say that he's yet to beat an upper echelon team in the playoffs, that's tough because teams are great, you know, and if you're not on the field, then that's tough for you. And if you're on the field and you're making turnovers, you know, you really at a loss. So it's just on him to keep working and getting back to it. I felt like it was a great game by him. He was more controlled than we've seen in the past, but you know, at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough going against this consistent Buffalo Bills defense that just continued to swarm and apply pressure and get him off his spot. That was great for us.
And one thing I kept on thinking about last night watching the Ravens and the Bills was if either of these teams were in the NFC, just how many Super Bowl appearances they would have over the last 5 years. You could argue, I mean, I would also include Cincinnati in that with Burrow. I mean, all the best players, quarterback-wise, are in the AFC, and it's not even debatable. The NFC's best quarterback might be a rookie in Jaden Daniels in Washington. So that was one thing I just thought about, just shaking my head. You have Mahomes and Allen and Burrow and Lamar Jackson. Year after year, these 4 guys are going to be going head-to-head and vying for that one spot in the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you got to get to the NFC if you're, you know, trying to get out there because – I mean, listen, I respect Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I, of course, respect
like the Western
Saquon
Conference
Barkley.
in the NBA.
Very much. You don't have to go through Shaq and Kobe.
Yes,
You can get through whoever else on the other side. So it's a really fascinating debate. And again, if Lamar Jackson is playing in the NFC, I bet he's been to the Super Bowl 3 times at this point in his career.
But you know what? The Atlanta Falcons were so fast to put out a statement saying, we don't want to trade for Lamar Jackson.
Whoops.
So all of those teams in the NFC, that's on you. Everybody could have had Lamar Jackson. And everyone was that dumb to be like, no, we don't need you. It boggles my mind how people acted like that. Lamar free agency, what was that, like 18 months ago?
Yeah.
That was crazy, especially the season that he breaks Michael Vick's rushing record.
So looking ahead to Sunday, Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Buffalo Bills. The 4th time in 5 years we're seeing Mahomes versus Allen. We know how the first 3 went for Buffalo. They're 0-3, including some ridiculous heartbreak along the way. Do you feel, Stevie Johnson, that this Bills team is better equipped than the previous 3 to finally dethrone the champs?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that because the team has experienced those, I don't want to say losses, I'm just going to say those lessons, you know, and that's what I think is going to get the Buffalo Bills over the Chiefs in the playoffs this year. Remembering those times, but not only remembering those past times, but those experiences that they've had going up to this game, like this past game against the Ravens. I'm thinking the defensive line, that interior. I was saying we need them to step up and show up against the Ravens. And what did they do? They showed up. They was disruptive. They was hitting people. I seen Ed Oliver hitting a running back down the field. It was pretty cool to see. So with them knowing that, they understand that beating the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be a defensive game in the trenches, and having a spy on Pat Mahomes. And they've shown that they're able to do that. So I'm 100% confident in the Bills this upcoming week.
How you feeling, boss?
So I'm confident. I said this yesterday a lot during the tailgate. I am more confident going into KC for the AFC Championship game than I was playing the Ravens at home yesterday.
Interesting.
Because this is the time to get the Chiefs. This is, yes, they went 15-2. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. But of the 3 Super Bowl champion Chiefs teams we've seen going back to 2019, 2020, this is the weakest. That's just a fact. That is a fact. This is the weakest. I think they're one of 3 teams this year to not score 30 points in a game. The Bills scored 30 points in 12 straight games. Like, if this turns into a shootout, the Buffalo offense is better than the Kansas City offense. And yeah, I know it's Patrick Mahomes. I know it's Travis Kelce, who suddenly is awake because it's playoffs. I know it's Andy Reid, and I know it's Arrowhead. But our offense is better for this game. Their defense, different story.
Yeah.
But Buffalo proved in the regular season game that the Bills offense can put up points on this Chiefs D.
I would be concerned if I was a Chiefs fan about what I saw from my offense against. We should give Houston some love, too. I mean, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, they deserve a lot of love. But, I mean, you look at Kelce. Beyond him, Xavier Worthy had 5 catches. Not another receiver caught a pass.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown. DeAndre Hopkins. Remember how much we talked about DeAndre Hopkins on this show all year when he was traded to Kansas City and saying, oh, they did it again. This guy didn't catch a single pass. Well, so I'm a little bit skeptical that the Chiefs offense can just turn it on.
A single pass, and I'm definitely comfortable with the Buffalo Bills going into Arrowhead because you need more to beat a team like the Buffalo Bills. You need depth. And that's what the Buffalo Bills have is depth, multiple running backs, multiple receivers. Yesterday, Josh Allen threw it to, I believe, 8 different receivers. So you see how that go. We're talking about, an elite team in the Kansas City Chiefs because they situational. But this team with the Buffalo Bills is elite because they have the depth right now. And they've shown that they've been able to prove it in these situational times. So I'm so looking forward to this championship game.
Now, Kelce does scare me. Let's be honest here. Kelce, and I don't know what happens before playoff runs for Kelce.
We talked about it all year. They put the cover on the Ferrari. They kept it in the garage.
He looked incredible. Yeah. He's wide open. He's breaking tackles.
He's still running in slow-mo, though.
It's crazy that he was able to conjure up the type of performances in the playoffs. It's something special. And I think Xavier Worthy is terrifying. I don't really know what Hollywood Brown is. I think DeAndre Hopkins, frankly, has lost a step, isn't the receiver that he once was. But, I mean, I don't know what you do with Kelce. You have Taron Johnson, you have Terrell Bernard, shadow him. Don't let this guy beat you. And if that's the case, I feel confident the Bills can slow down the Kansas City run game with Pacheco and Hunt. I mean, they did a damn good job on Derrick Henry, save for that one drive where he ripped off 55 yards or whatever it was in the third quarter. I would feel really good if I was the Buffalo Bills. That being said, still Kansas City. It's a road game. You're going to have to be at your best. You're going to have to win the turnover battle. And I think Josh Allen is going to have to do a lot more than he did last night with his arm and his legs.
I think you're bang on. You can't come with that same conservative type play calling. And credit to McDermott and Brady in the first game. 4th and 2, they knew what they had to do. Josh had that play running in for a touchdown. You need to go with that same mentality of if Mahomes has the ball with 2 minutes left and you're only up 4, just imagine they're getting 7 because he's going to get 7. So you need to have a 2-possession lead on them going into late in that game. But you touched on something before about the Houston edges and Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. We talked about it. The Texans' path to victory was attacking 2 Chiefs' weak tackles. And Joe Thuney is not a tackle, and he's playing tackle for them. So we might need to see a big Von Miller and a big Greg Russo game. Greg Russo was awesome yesterday. And another factor, Matt Milano. Matt Milano arguably saved that game. That first 2-point conversion attempt, that guy's wide open, and Matt Milano gets a hand on it.
That was a huge play when you look at the final score. Absolutely.
He might be the guy that you need to have. Hey, Milano and Taron Johnson, you just go with Kelce all day. Matt Milano's a great coverage linebacker, but if you pair him with Taron Johnson, who's one of the best slot corners in the NFL, both of you just stick with this guy all game. And still probably won't shut him down.
No, I'm sure he'll still get 80 yards.
Matching up with Bernard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're going to have to do. And Worthy is a scary guy. He could operate in a number of different ways on that offense, and I'm sure they'll crack out the best plays that they have for him. But again, Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins, we talked a lot about those guys this year, and neither of whom have really contributed much at all for Kansas City all season long. So if you could find a way to slow down Kelsey, which is so much easier said than done, the guy's one of the best playoff performers in the history of the National Football League, then I think the Bills should feel really good about their chances.
Yeah, especially when you have multiple defenders, multiple elite defenders. You guys named off from Groot to Von Miller. We didn't even say Ed Oliver in the middle.
Was a
Matt
beast.
Milano.
Was
We
a
didn't even
beast
speak
yesterday.
on Bernard. Yeah, there's so many talented players on this defense that can tag in for somebody and say, okay, I got him this quarter, I got him that quarter. So for the defense, I'm excited to see what Babbage cook up. On offense, we understand that we cannot have a quarter like we had against the Kansas City Chiefs. That second quarter is unacceptable, and Josh got to understand if he's not throwing it, you got to use your legs. One more thing I like to add. I love how Coach Brady had those extended handoffs, which were pass plays, but it was quick out the backfield, getting it to the running backs, Ty Johnson, James Cook. Those are great plays, and I think those would be beneficial for us coming up.
In regards to the defense, I don't know if you guys heard Josh postgame, but he's normally just a cliche machine and doesn't say anything. He took all of the talk personally and said, people calling out our defense, saying our defense can't stop anybody.
Davis Sanchez, he was talking to you.
And I think you saw it early. The Bills matched the Ravens' physicality early in that game. And yes, Baltimore still scored, but collectively, they held Derrick Henry, especially early. It was important to not let Henry get going. They held him to 86 yards. He still got his. Shout out to Damar Hamlin, who made a massive tackle on what would have been a touchdown. The Bills D stepped up and kept him in check, and I'm confident with the Bills D going into Arrowhead. Having said that, I don't know. I don't think we're going to get like a 13-second shootout, but I think we're going to get points.
I hope we do. I think that favors the Bills. Yeah. A shootout favors the Bills. I think they can do more offensively than Kansas City can, in my opinion, Stevie.
Hey, I just wanted to give a shout out to Chezzy because he did call him out early in the season. But then he went back and he said he watched all that film, and that got me to watch film on Babbage and seeing all the different strategies and coverages that he's put together, and it's very impressive. So, shout out to Chezzy for inspiring and sparking the defense early in the season.
And our Broken Table teammates, Davis and Takia, live on location at Highmark with those beautiful, warm TSN jackets. They were doing some great work.
Well, what a segue, because let's now throw to Takia. This is Takia post-game from last night. Of course, Davis, Takia, and Chris B, none of them could make the trip back. Here I am, driving 3.5 hours from the stadium to my parents' house in Grimsby, as you said, getting to sleep in my childhood bedroom, thinking about a Bills Super Bowl while they got to stay in a fancy hotel in Buffalo. But let's throw to Takia post-game with a lot of Bills fans.
Go Bills time!
All right, the Bills got the Chiefs next week. Are you nervous at all?
Not one bit. No, we beat the Ravens. We're in it. We're in it to rule bound. Are you out of your mind?
The thing is, I don't think the Chiefs stand a chance because they put up that kind of performance against the Texans. They're done.
We're going to win. We've already booked our flights to Kansas City.
No.
We'll be there in Missouri.
Yes.
Yes. When we walk out here, we booked our flights.
We go into Arrowhead and we take what's ours.
You're even skipping
We're going all the way. Going all the way.
So you're not afraid of Patrick Mahomes at all?
No! Are you kidding me?
Josh is ready. Josh
will
is
be
fresh.
MVP in KC.
I like that. MVP in KC. Go Bills, baby.
You know who I'm afraid of? I'm a little afraid of the rest, but we're going to play him. It doesn't matter.
We believe we can do it again. We'll sing Taylor Swift the whole plane ride home.
Get our way to the Lombardi Trophy and then what?
And then we party.
Woo! Go Bills!
Those were the fans post-game, and I'll say, walking to my car, I had the same feeling. The number of high fives exchanging, we were hugging in the stands. It was just, honestly, it was just something like that. A win like that is just so beautiful leaving the stadium. People were crying. People were in tears.
That's Bills Mafia,
yes,
man. That's the community we're talking about.
And it is. So before we transition to the NFC, we might as well talk our best bets because Stevie, once again, another winner, just absolutely scorching. And
he's going to get banned from FanDuel.
You will. FanDuel will limit your account because of that. So what do you like this week, Stevie? The Bills are dogs, 1.5. So you're getting a 1.5 if you like the Bills, or you can take a money line.
Yeah, Bills are dogs, but I'm looking in on my sources at the Broken Table, and I'm taking the Bills on the money line, baby. Bills money line. Come on, let's get it, Buffalo.
I mean, if you're not tailing Stevie Johnson, I don't care what the bet is. It's a winner these days. What is his overall record, Stevie Johnson? I mean,
he's 17-3.
17 and 3.
I wasn't gonna say nothing. I was just gonna let it ride. I'm humble.
This guy is, and he's one of the most prolific bettors in the history of football.
So
This is
Stevie's
special.
17-3, I'm 14-5. AK, you're a nice, respectable 12-6 with your Justice Hill hit.
12-6 is good.
So what
we
do you-
combined,
Yes,
we
combined,
are
the three of
crushing
us.
it. Get rid of Davis Sanchez, and this podcast is otherworldly when it comes to our betting.
So
prowess.
what do you like for Sunday?
I'm looking at Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs, and you just see the way he's utilized in that offense. He is essentially the de facto Rashee Rice now, with him out for the year. I like over 4.5 receptions for Xavier Worthy. We saw him pick up 5 in the game against Houston. This guy has been the go-to guy beyond Travis Kelce, who I expect Buffalo to hone in on and try to limit to the best of their abilities, which could yield some more opportunities for Worthy. Over 4.5 catches for Worthy.
So I love that Worthy bet just because the way their offense works, they give him so many just layup, easy
Screens,
catches just to
yeah.
try to get him the ball in space. So I like that you went receptions instead of yards.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go with the bet that I lost last week, and that's Josh Allen over 230.5 pass yards. This game's going to be different. The offense is going to need to put up some points. And I know going into last week, I'm like, oh, you can't run on the Ravens. Well, they ran on the Ravens. Going on the Broncos game, it's like, oh, people said you can't run on the Broncos. They ran on the Broncos. Chiefs are a good run defense too. I think they will be able to run on them, but I just think this game lends itself to a bit more of a shootout where Josh is going to have to get it done. So I'm going over 230.5 pass yards. But let's go to the NFC because, Stevie, 2 guys you repped all year, Saquon Barkley and Jaden Daniels, both unreal. Like, what was the story of Saturday to you? Was it more Jaden Daniels' ascension as to maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, or Detroit blowing just a terrible
5
loss for Detroit?
turnovers.
5 turnovers, yeah.
Yeah, I would say Jaden's ascension so fast, beating the number 1 team, going into Detroit and beating the number 1 team. That was special for him, very uplifting. Saquon, what he did out in Philly to the Rams, it was great. We've seen it all season. But yeah, I would lean more towards Jaden Daniels, the rookie that's doing it big out in the NFC.
Yeah, they put up 45 points on Detroit on the road as a rookie quarterback. And he's no normal rookie. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's an older rookie and clearly one of the most talented players in the NFL. 299 through the air, 51 on the ground. We talked about how Detroit was exploitable for running quarterbacks, and that was very much the case. The poise he played with, again, 0 turnovers. And we talked about it with the Bills and their win over Baltimore. You win the turnover battle, you're likely going to win the game. When you win the turnover battle 5-0,
Yeah.
you're definitely winning the game. And Detroit, Goff was terrible. Throwing terrible picks. I thought some of the play calls, including that Jamison Williams, wild Ben Johnson schemed play, definitely did not work out for them. And as much as people want to criticize Detroit and some of their offensive philosophies, I thought it was Jaden Daniels in Washington that went out and dominated them. And yes, the turnovers were a big factor in that game, but when you go out and score 45 points, the way that Washington did, they deserve a ton of credit for the way they performed.
And credit to Dan Quinn for out Dan Campbelling Dan Campbell. With other than that terrible Mariota 4th down call, they knew that they were going to need to convert on 4th downs to win that game, and they did. But you said it, the poise. Jaden Daniels was just unflappable. And to see that as a rookie was crazy. But I think we're seeing this now. We saw it with Darnold the 2 weeks before. We're seeing it with Goff now. If you are going to be a quarterback winning on these high levels, you need to be a dog. And Jared Goff just isn't that guy. Yeah, you can scheme him to matchups and stuff, but I think in the playoffs, you need one of those guys, and there's only like 5 of them.
Well, yeah,
and
guys,
Goff isn't one of them.
Mobility, I think, is really important too. Look at the
Yeah.
Final Four: Hurts and Daniels and Allen and Mahomes.
All
They
of
all
them
can
can
move, and that's not to take a shot at guys like Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford.
No, I'm taking a shot at them.
I mean, both Matthew Stafford.
Not Stafford. Stafford's the guy.
Stafford. We
I'm
love.
taking
We
a
love
shot.
Stafford. By the way, sorry about your Rams futures,
Yeah,
but
well,
it's
whatever.
okay. It was worth a shot. It was worth a shot. But I wonder how much the evolution of the position is on full display here with these 4 guys remaining. Where you got to be able to move in the pocket just a little bit, and all 4 of these guys can move a lot and do it very effectively on the ground. And I mean, it's not to say that the pocket quarterback is dead, because you still have Joe Burrow, you still have Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. I think 3 of the best at the position who are those pocket quarterbacks. But clearly the game is changing, and those different dimensions of your game and your offense, Stevie, I mean, that's what these 4 teams left are really exemplifying.
Yeah, you got to be mobile and not necessarily running down like Mike Vick, Lamar Jackson in a sense, but you got to be mobile, be able to move around in that pocket and extend plays. What I thought was the key to that victory and getting the Detroit Lions out was the game within the game when Jared Goff, I believe, threw a pick or it was a fumble. And the Washington Commanders, they didn't just go block Jared Goff.
Oh.
They went and knocked his head
They
off.
lit him up,
Now that's
yeah.
sending the message. Yeah. So that's something that you have to do, in the NFL. This is a Warriors game, not being malicious and ill intent, but you got to be able to impose your authority. And that's what the Commanders did out there. They didn't give them too much respect. They went there and they took it from them. And, that's all energy.
What a hit that was on Goff. He got rocked.
I had in-game the Lions right after that play, and then I see him running to the medical center.
Is that Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it is.
It gave me a little scare. Losing bet, whatever. I'm excited for this NFC Championship game. One thing, the Commanders were really bad against the run, and Gibbs lit him up, and I think Barkley could really light him up as well. But just to close out on something, you talked about mobile quarterbacks, and let's go back to the Bills game, because your guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Stevie, did you see him before the game? The shirt came off.
I'm about to take mine off in here right now. What?
Unbelievable. Fitz just gets Bills Mafia. And all that made me think is I can't wait until next year when Stevie Johnson's back to be a legend of the game. And you just got to one-up Fitz, shirt off, through a table, all that.
Got to. I think everybody got to go with a shirt off, a Fitz Magic shirt off moment. But I'm looking forward to it, man. That's my guy, Fitz. Love him. And he's one of those guys, like we was talking about, he wasn't mobile in a sense. You wouldn't think of him as a scrambling or running quarterback, which he can, but he can stay open in the pocket and allow receivers to have time. So, and you see that in the evolution of Josh. Well, Josh kind of had that, but now you see a little more controlled in that pocket. So it's a beautiful thing to see that evolution from a Jim Kelly to a Fitz to now having a Josh Allen is pretty sweet for the Western New York community.
With shirtless dudes, while we're on this subject, how many shirtless dudes, Chris, did you see in the crowd last night in this minus whatever degree temperature?
I didn't see that many, but one thing I did notice a lot of was the Zubaz overalls, but with nothing underneath. So it wasn't shirtless, but they had the Zubaz overalls slightly over.
Say risky proposition, dancing shirtless in minus 15 degree temperatures with alcohol involved. That can pose some problems.
Mac
for
Hollins, shout out Mac Hollins.
Yeah,
beach day
who needs shirts when he doesn't even wear shoes? So he's all good.
The only disappointment
Right.
from yesterday is that Davis Sanchez did not go through a table. But on that note, Stevie, see us out.
Come on. Okay, look. I'm gonna leave it out with the words of the great Marv Levy. Where else would you rather be than right here,
Right now.
right now? This is the Broken Table. Thanks for tuning in. Leave your thoughts in the comment, and we'll check out with y'all. One love.